Us Asians are cute, so let's grab a blanket, turn off your lights for true scary stories of people with yellow fever. Ew! Teacher with symptoms of yellow fever. Edit. This happened to me when I was a senior in high school. So the context is that the original weight training teacher got his back messed up after trying to break up a fight between some guys. One of the guys decided it would be a good idea to push the 70-something-year-old teacher into a bunch of weights, so a fairly new substitute teacher was going to fill in for him while he recovered. Now, at first glance, this teacher doesn't radiate creepiness like most subjects of these kind of stories do. In fact, I had fun in that class. Despite being only one of 3 girls in that entire class, we stuck together and had a blast. So during and after class, he'd strike up small talk with me. I didn't think too much of it, as all the teachers in that school were all decent people and quite friendly, to be honest. He'd just talk about how I was doing in the class and what we were going to do the next day, etc, etc. And it eventually evolved into small talk about me and my other classes, life outside of it, things like that. But the weirdness happened when I participated in my school's yearly cultural fair. I was the only one available to represent the Vietnam booth and the little fashion walk, where people wear their cultural, traditional clothing and walk out into the gymnasium as a model of sorts. I was used to the compliments, and I was very proud of being able to wear my mother's dress. For those who's curious, you can look up Ao Dao to see the type of dress. Anyways, so after the school assembly was done, I waited for the gym to clear out so I can leave without being smushed and trampled. Lo and behold, the substitute walked up to me for more small talk. Again, I didn't think much of it since before then. His actions never crossed the line. He asked about my nationality and the dress, just things like that. I noticed that he was uncomfortably close to me. Despite the gym being almost cleared out by then, I was getting really uncomfortable, and I just wanted to leave and hang out with my friends while waiting for my dad to pick me up. And then out of nowhere, he leans in real close and says, "You know, I once dated a Vietnamese woman." Well, you aren't gonna date another one anytime soon. I was like, that's cool, but I better get going now. See you next time. And I yeeted myself out of there as fast as I could in heels. Boy, was I uncomfortable, but damn, did I look fabulous. I told my friends who didn't take the class and told the other 2 girls who were my gym partners about it. It was a good laugh, but sheesh, the guy needs to get someone his own age. After that, I would catch him staring at me too often and for too long for comfort inside and out of class. It was an interesting day where he subbed for my German class too. Ever since that incident in the gym, nothing else happened, thankfully. Some of you may have read all of that and thought, oh, it isn't that scary. Maybe not, but it's certainly scary that someone his age, mid to late 40s, would go for an 18-year-old student. So, Mr. Substitute, please find a woman your own age. Terminal case of yellow fever. I don't think anyone would really care all that much about what happened to me about a week ago. But I recently found this sub and figured you guys might find it interesting. I, 18-year-old female, was returning home by myself from a late-night flight, and the cheapest option from the airport to my home was a coach service with a 5-hour layover in some London station from about 1 in the morning to about 6. I don't really mind waiting, so I figured I'd just find myself a comfy bench and veg out on Netflix until my coach arrived. About 30 minutes into me waiting, some guy about my age enters the station and takes a seat next to me. He starts chatting up the people around us, which I felt was a little rude at this hour, so I did my best to ignore it in the hopes that he wouldn't try engaging me next. That didn't work, and after getting bored of talking to the other sleep-deprived travelers, he suddenly became very interested in me. He opened up by telling me I have a very pretty Chinese eyes. Why Chinese specifically, I couldn't tell you. And then started asking me about my age, where I'm from, and if I have a boyfriend. I'm not very good at dealing with confrontations on the spot, so I do answer his questions, though very curtly and shortly, because I am uninterested. This is definitely on me. I'm too afraid of confrontation and should have said outright that I didn't want to talk. Anyways, he starts getting all touchy-feely, knocking my arm playfully, then wrapping his arm over me in a half hug, then swiping at my cheek with his finger. I tried moving to other seats, but every time I did, he'd just follow. At this point, I did try and verbally deny his advances, or just outright not answer him at all, but this did not stop him. I remember going on Instagram and pretending to scroll through it, try to ignore him, but once he saw I was on Instagram, he took my phone out of my hand and followed himself on my account, as if that's a normal thing human beings do and find acceptable. He then starts describing how much he'd like to hug me and kiss me, and he also asked me to be his girlfriend without him asking for my name or vice versa. I said no, and he said, well, if you change your mind, just tell me. Okay. Since when does okay mean let's get into a relationship, random stranger? Sure, whatever, not gonna happen, you creep. He then rambled on about him studying dentistry and his family being engineers or something like that, so I should date him because he's well off? I should mention that there was really no feasible escape from this situation. The station only had other sleep-deprived travelers and homeless people, both of whom definitely didn't look like they wanted to get involved. It was too early in the morning for there to be any staff there to help either. I considered leaving the station altogether, but I am not familiar with the area, and from the looks of it, it was way sketchier on the outside. I also considered calling the police, but it just seemed really stupid and pointless. One, I was in the middle of a city at night, so I doubted I would get a timely response, if any. Two, although I was very uncomfortable and things did look like they could escalate, it wasn't necessarily an emergency, so I didn't think they would want to do anything about it anyways. Plus, this guy kept following me around, so he was bound to have heard me make the call, and there's no telling how he would have reacted. And even if the police did come, what could they have done? They couldn't have kicked him out. They wouldn't have babysat me for 5 hours. Besides, I'm only staying in this country on a visa, and I am incredibly paranoid about building a record of any kind, even though I know I am entirely in the right. It just seemed like an incredibly helpless situation. This continues over the course of those 6 hours until my coach finally arrives. I shoot out to the front of the line and am one of the first people to board the bus. Now, at some point in the night while he was blabbling away, I do remember him saying that his coach wasn't until some time later, so it was weird that he followed me in the line. After I got on, he stood aimlessly around the doors until the driver checking everyone's tickets yelled at him to move to the back of the line or to leave. The guy then walked up to the driver and asked him if he could switch his coach tickets to this one. What was his plan? Sit next to me? Follow me 2 hours out to the city into a town he doesn't even know? Then what? Follow me into my home, wait for me outside, record my address? I seriously have no clue how he was formulating this all in his head. The driver denied him, obviously, since that's not how tickets work. He went back and forth with the driver for another minute, and I think he was asking him how he could get to my destination. I couldn't really hear this part of their conversations, but the guy eventually hurried back into the station while making a phone call. I assumed to try and switch his tickets. My coach left before I could find out though, so who knows if he was successful in that. I'm a young girl who's often traveled by myself, so it's not like this is the first time I've been creeped on, but it certainly was a very strange and extreme instance. So the neckbeard who had a thing for my math teacher, let's not meet. This happened 2 years ago, in my high school junior year. I was the kind of student who would take honors, AP, everything. Wasted my goddamn time, to be honest. And I was taking accelerated pre-calc so I could get into AB Calc BC the next year. It was around September, November. It's the beginning of the school year when a new kid, Corbin, randomly shows up sitting in the back of my math class. At the time, the seating arrangement sat me near him, so I thought, let's be nice to the new guy and just, really acknowledge his presence, I guess. He would ask me questions, I would politely answer, etc. Nothing special, but no one else was really doing it at the time. He wasn't the type to be immediately popular the second you move schools, and he had that classic pudgy short nerd look to him. Glasses, neck beard, a rotation of 3 shirts, so I felt bad. I was never one to make friends, wasn't popular, wasn't that good looking. Depression made me gross as fuck, so I felt empathetic, I guess. Turns out we shared another class, AP US History. This time, Corbin sat directly in my table group. We would have to interact more in that class, so maybe he started to see me as a friendly face. I mean, being a new kid is hard, especially when everyone else has known each other for most of their lives. But that's where the problem is. I don't know what about me gave him the impression that he could confide in me about his love interests. But after a week or two, that's what Corbin started to do. At first, it wasn't too sus. It was saying things like, wow, math class is so great. And Miss Edgar, our math teacher, is such a great teacher. Like, yeah, okay, things like that are normal to hear when you're sitting in a class full of AP nuts who want to go to Ivy League school and become the next Stephen Hawking or whatever the fuck. But then he starts telling me more about this other teacher, Miss Chen, asking things like, is Miss Chen married? Yes, but we call her Miss. And does she have kids? Yes, the picture's literally right in front of you. And then he kept asking things like, I want to have all 6 periods of the day be math with Miss Chen. And I don't want to leave math with Miss Chen. Why is this such a short period? At this point, I would try to stay away from Corbin. I wouldn't talk to him. I wouldn't look at him, giving signals of, ew, please go away, because I had some sort of gut feeling that he liked a lot more than just math. I would literally run from our math classroom the moment the bell rang in an effort to keep him from catching up to me, but he would still friggin' find me and say these kinds of things. I've never power walked so hard in my life, and he would somehow still catch up. Impressive in a way, to be honest. In my history class, we eventually had to do a group project as a table group. It was me, Corbin, and 2 other girls. We had to draw some sort of poster about the Civil War, and I was in charge of drawing most of it because for most of my life, everyone knew me as the girl who can draw. I had to draw some sort of southerner-looking guy, and I guess to him it looked like friggin' Joseph Joestar, like the anime character. First of all, ew, not to ew JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, but ew to the fact that I just got my years of art practice whittled down to look like an anime character, but whatever. That wasn't the problem. The problem was that Corbin would or not let that go. Instead of, doing actual work and helping on the poster, all he would do for the rest of the class was just make JJBA sound effects. Like, what the heck? The 2 other girls and I would just look at each other and then go back to doing our work, trying not to give him the attention he so clearly wanted from us. He would always try to crack jokes to no avail, and when watching documentaries in US history class, so it was nothing new. He would actually repeat his jokes numerous times, but even the teacher wouldn't give him the time of day. But the poster thing was so painful that I actually had to stop liking JJBA for a while. But that's neither near nor there. Back to the main part. I eventually got sick and tired of Corbin's BS and decided to email both Miss Chen and my AP history teacher, saying that I wanted to be moved as far away from him as possible in class and have them make sure that future seating charts would reflect that. I didn't go into details as to why I felt so uncomfortable. What was I supposed to say? And the teachers didn't ask any questions, so I got my wish and got moved to literally the opposite corners. He was in the front left corner, I was in the back right, yada yada. I would catch him staring at me a lot, but he stopped talking to me after that, thank the goddamn Lord, right? Then I found something out that made me feel bad for Miss Chen herself. Sometimes when I missed class, I would go in after to make some notes or take quizzes, and I noticed that he was always there. I mean, during lunch, after school, he was always just sitting there. Other kids would see him when they went in to make something up every single day. But I would try to rationalize all of this. Obviously, he didn't have too many friends, being new and all, so maybe he wanted to not sit alone during lunchtime? Maybe just wait a little bit in the classroom before his mom came to pick him up after school, and maybe Miss Chen is the only teacher he feels comfortable around. Then, suddenly, it's Valentine's Day. For me, not a special day, never been a special day, never will be, just a regular normal ass day. I'd missed class the day before, yes, I'm a serial skipper if you haven't noticed, and went in after school to make up a math test. Surprise! You know who's there, giving Miss Chen motherfucking cookies, saying he wanted to do something special for a special someone like her and whatnot. Some poetic, lovey-dovey bullshit. Miss Chen accepts it, I guess, with a slightly forced, thanks, and he finally leaves. I take my test, don't remember if I did any good, but right as I was about to walk out the door, Miss Chen asked, "Can I actually talk to you for a second? OP. I'm like, what the heck can this be about? I thought it was some sort of trouble missing all those classes or something, you know? But it turns out she wanted to ask about Corbin. She goes, OP, I know you didn't want to talk about why you were uncomfortable with Corbin, but I was wondering if there was anything you can tell me. I was like, oh, thank God she noticed. And so I finally spilled the beans and how weird he was, how he seemed to be infatuated with her completely, and how I thought that she was oblivious to it this whole entire time. Miss Chen tells me that she's always new and that she has to put up with it for the rest of the year. Yeah, because what is there to do anyways? She thanks me for talking with her, and the year progressed with a less amount of weirdness, I guess. I eventually started to tell other people about my interactions with Corbin, this person, not for the sake of gossip, you know, but because I wanted to warn people actually, especially the girls he tended to hover over. He would always just go up to a pair of girls and stand in between them, just watching them talk to each other, not even engage in their conversation, just watch. That's when I found out other girls have had similar sus interactions with this kid, how he kept trying the whole, what if we kissed? Haha, just kidding, unless line multiple times on multiple girls, and how he harassed this one particular girl that I guess he liked over text, etc. One trend of his is that he would only take interest only in Asian girls, so he probably had some sort of yellow fever situation going on as well. Junior year ended with no further bumps, and when senior year started, I walked into school and don't see Corbin anywhere. He's not in my classes or any other AP class, which is weird, because he'd probably take it, to be honest. Turns out, he moved back to where he came from over the summertime. As for me, I miss more school than I like to admit. I'm always one for pushing the attendance limit, but still graduated in the top 5% of my class out of 560 students. See, kids, it is possible, but just don't quote me on it. Now I am in college living my best life and out of that hick town for good. As for Corbin, you better not see me again.